Good day, Live the Fuel fans. Hey guys, so if you're watching the video, hello from my hotel in Waterloo, New York. That's right, Waterloo, New York. And until I started traveling up here years ago, I had no clue where that is. So for anybody who likes geography, we are about 3.5 to 4 hours, probably 4 hours really, north of where I live in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We are about halfway in between Syracuse, New York and Rochester, New York, and probably at least 45 minutes south of the edge of the Great Lakes. So there you go. So welcome back to a new episode of the podcast. It has been a hot minute. I did not air anything in the past month or two since the new year, and we are now into April, so I felt guilty. And I said, I do not normally record from the road while on business, and I figured, why not? Let's do that. So obviously for the longtime listeners, I'm usually airing really cool people that I either stumble across or have been referred to me in regards to health, business, and lifestyle. This is what we care about, fueling you guys up. And I felt like I was looking a little lazy the past month or two, not airing any new content. So that being said, there's still a lot of great people being referred to me, but I just wanted to try another break. I just to see if I was missing it. And that's just what I like to do. I like to test the psychologies, test the mindset. And it was time for a new episode. So anyway, guys, happy new year. I've already said that on the last couple episodes. We already aired some content in January and February, and I figured let's air something from the road. So for those of you who don't know what I do to make income, for a long time now, I've been what's called a manufacturer's representative. So I'm independent. I work for myself. Fuel Enterprises obviously is my business. There's many entities under that. Obviously, Live the Fuel is the podcast. Fuel Up Marketing is my branding agency. And then I did have Fuel Foundations. I guess at the highest level, you could say that falls under fuel businesses and fuel enterprises, but obviously it's a legitimate 501c3. It's a nonprofit, so that exists under its own tax ID for non-exempt, basically exempt purposes. And for those of you who do or do not follow that, please do, because obviously for those of you who know my background, being a former Hotshot Wildland Firefighter years ago, all these years later, I decided to give back. So we launched the Boots Refuel Fund over a year ago, and I just wanted to share that on this episode. Like, hey, where does that money come from? Well, 5% of my income goes into that. So every time I run my books for the month, before I even pay myself, I immediately take 5% off the top, and that gets donated to Fuel Foundations. Why? Because I want to buy the boots. So obviously, foundation of our Wildland Firefighters is the boots. So we've already, I don't know if we've broken 20 pairs yet, but obviously the going rate for boots nowadays for our Wildland Firefighters is anywhere from, well, retail, I don't even know, it could be $600 to $800 depending on the tier, the brand. But if you're truly trying to buy the best pair of boots like I did years ago I had the Nix Hotshot series boot. They still make that to this day. But when I launched the Boots Refuel Fund to start buying boots for Wildland Firefighters, my very first relationship was JK Boots. Then obviously we got set up with Nix, and now we have Baker Boots is a big entity, multiple tiers of boots. But Drew's, a guy had reached out to me with our raffle process and said, hey, when he applied, he preferred trying out Drew's. So Drew's is another brand, and I just haven't anybody ask yet, but obviously we'll eventually have a relationship with White's. Anyway, all of these companies build high quality, like handmade, solid leather, cowhide, legit, like logger grade. Logger, when I refer to in the mountains, in the woods, logger grade, logger heel, a fire resistant rubber sole, hiking boots on steroids. So my boots years ago were probably at least $450 to $500 due to years of inflation, and obviously costs have changed over the years in the United States of America. They're upwards of $600 to $800 retail. So I've set up a professional, I guess you can call it like a wholesaler style relationship with the manufacturers, ergo, JK, Nix, et cetera. And we've got a discounted rate because we're a nonprofit. So now, if any Wildland Firefighters are watching this episode, please go to fuelfoundations.org. Please submit your information, and your name gets thrown in my old rookie helmet. And as long as I have enough applications and we have the funding, I will be pulling a name out of the helmet and and donating and sponsoring a pair of boots. So after that, I send your information over to the factory of your choice, and they take it from there. And it could be, if it's something already available in retail, they might ship something right away in your size. If they're behind or it's a busy wildland firefighting season, you might have a couple of months of waiting lists, especially if something has to be custom built for you. So super fun. I only hit on all that because obviously giving back really matters to me. But it's a kind of a brief story here up front as to why I travel so much. So again, back to actually what I do for income. Besides sales, marketing, and branding, for years, shout out to Jennifer Flodine, a longtime friend. And obviously, God, this is going back probably at least 14 years. I jumped in early on, helping her get her agency going, which impacts the HVAC industry. So there's many industries you can create a niche in. It just so happens I fell into that one after years in telecom, IT, a couple of startup companies, et cetera. But anyway, I'm really good with the gift of gab, according to some people professionally, and I wanted to obviously make money. So in the beginning, I was her employee years ago. I left, started up a couple things that didn't work out. Then I returned as a consultant, which I am to this day. That's probably my primary income stream, because after building 14 years of business-to-business relationships, it's kind of hard to let it go. I love having fun. Like today, I got here last night and set up before 8 o'clock this morning for kind of like a mini trade show, but it was a dealer meeting for one of the big distributor companies that we have a relationship with, who has branches across Pennsylvania and upstate New York for the HVAC professionals, the contractors that fix your home or your business when it comes to heating, air conditioning, could be plumbing, etc. So as a manufacturer's rep, I figured, hey, why not tell you guys what the heck that is? Technically, that falls under the tagline for the show. We fuel your health, business, and lifestyle. Well, this is the business. This is how I'm able to afford everything I do. This is how I'm able to contribute along with my wife in our relationship for our home and for our dog, Riva the Vizsla. Shout out to Riva. You can follow her on Instagram. Of course, I made sure she had a profile. Got to keep the wife happy. So at Riva the Vizsla on Instagram. And yeah, we're crazy dog parents. So, but long story short, I've got years of B2B relationships now established. Now, years ago, I teach people all the time that not everybody's built to be a sales professional, but everybody can become a sales professional. I don't care what your background is, because sooner or later, and especially it gets easier as you mature, you've now had enough conversations, you've built enough, hopefully, interpersonal relationships personally and professionally to learn how to communicate and to learn how to connect with people. And that could apply to your personal relationships, love, romance, and or professional relationships. And that's one of the secret hacks in the sales world is I don't sell anymore. Today, I was here just being a connection. That, again, the role is that manufacturer's rep. So as a consultant, I'm playing that role between the factories that develop all these amazing, equipment and whatever it may be used, and then they're getting it into the hands of the wholesalers, aka the distributors that I came up here to support, and then they're getting it in the hands of the contractor, and then the contractor puts it into your home or your business. So it's a very pro-trade focused world. There is no. Basically 95% of the distributors that we work with between the factories to help teach their people, then they teach the contractors, et cetera. These are all pro-trade relationships. So instead of you, for example, here in the US, if you were a consumer like myself, and I wanted to work on my house, I could find the local hardware store and or go to big box, meaning Home Depot, Lowe's, those types of big entities to buy supplies. Well, at these professional wholesalers, you don't do that. 95% of my wholesalers, it is a pro-trade relationship only. You must be a licensed and insured HVAC professional, refrigerant expert, plumbing person. Why? Because there's a lot of liability involved, especially when it comes to the equipment level. These are pieces of equipment that are $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 residentially. Once you're all said and done in the install in your home, you don't want some Tom, Dick, and Harry nobody that doesn't have a clue putting that in your home. So there's a lot of liability there. So long story short, these are pro-trade relationships. So 14 years now, building these connections. It's been fun. And I still love being a road warrior. It's a big part of my lifestyle. That's why the past month or two, coming through winter, I was like, I'm going to really focus on just getting a ton of steam into these relationships again, and just making sure that 2026 is going to rock out. So I was like, I'm just going to take a break and get some fresher ideas into my mind when it comes to the podcast. I've been podcasting now. This is 2026, gang. 10 years. I launched this in 2016, only based on the fact that I'm a geek about health, and obviously trying to find a way to balance that with my business and my lifestyle. So much has been learned and gained over that time. And that's why I figured, for April 2026, for this fresh episode from my hotel, I'm actually at the Del Lago Casino and Resort. I've only stayed here one or two other times. The only reason I'm here is because that's where they had the big dealer meeting. They had 30 major contractors, their customers, their top dealers, come from Buffalo and Syracuse and Rochester and all over, and they were invited here to celebrate their last year's business success. These are all entrepreneurs that could be employing HVAC technicians ranging from 2 to 5 people all the way up to 50 to 100 people, depending on how big these companies are. So the distributor who set this event up, who we came in to support on behalf of whatever product lines Jennifer's firm has secured contracts with, that's why I was here, to meet with owners of these companies, making sure they're happy or learning more about what they might not be even buying yet, setting up future educational and training events, because quick rewind on what makes a sales professional. In my mind, you become a teacher, you become an educator. It's about relationship building, but it's not about selling. Some of the biggest successes I've had to date are because it took sometimes 3 to 5 years of building relationships, playing the long game, finding the right time to finally, for that, maybe that one contractor wasn't ready yet, or to help them grow a new segment of their business, to help ensure that they can hire new people and give their employees a better life. That's what people don't think about when it comes to sales. Is like, it's not just selling something. Like, you have to fast forward and connect on all levels of the relationship and say, hey, how could this not just benefit the business, but benefit that technician, and then eventually obviously help the homeowner, business owner, et cetera. It's a full circle process. So I love teaching on that. So I thought I'd just slide some of that content into today's episode, because a lot of people don't look at sales professionals that way. I personally was against being a sales professional many years ago. And I realized once I became independent, working for myself, everybody's a salesperson. Even if you're still a W-2 worker like I used to be, working for a corporation or a startup, you're using sales in your interviews, in your hiring practices, into cross-functional relationships from maybe between one department and another department. It's a lot of relationship building, convincing, et cetera. It all applies into romance personally as well, right? Like building that relationship. So a lot of sales goes into all of that. And just people don't like putting that name on it. So anyway, that's why I'm up here in New York. I figured, why not? I finished that event at 1 o'clock today, and then I headed out and met with one of the big contractors who wanted me to swing by, and then went and visited a couple of small businesses just to see if there's some new relationships out here, because I'm pretty out here. There's not a lot going on. So, and then I'll be heading back through Syracuse, New York tomorrow, and back to Allentown, Pennsylvania after leaving early yesterday morning. So my lifestyle, part of this episode, right? I like to pack all my business travel into Tuesday through Thursday. All right, so I'll keep my home office time Mondays and Fridays. That allows me to do, obviously, more podcast activities. That allows me to balance my life, be there for, setting up any of my personal meetings. Could be doctor's visits, massage therapy, chiropractic care, your personal life, being there for the wife, the dog, etc. But to be fair, my wife loves when I leave town. She gets the place to herself. She gets the dog to herself. We have a very healthy relationship that way. I love getting away. Like, I don't even gamble. So I'm staying in a casino resort. I walked through last night just to people watch, but I'm not into it. It's not my thing. I work very hard for my income, and I just don't like using that level of risk to potentially lose your income. I'd rather take risks, like, for those of you who have followed the show for a while, accidentally crashing a mountain bike, breaking ribs, collapsing a lung. Obviously not my first choice, but going on heli skiing trips with my wife, like those are the risks I want to take. The adrenaline junkie stuff, the lifestyle stuff. So that's why, like many years ago, I've used it a few times on the show. I love groupings of three. I dual majored in psychology when I paid my way through school, and then went back to school as an adult. And I love mixing psychology into everything I do. And I remember from some big, I think there are like professional growth events. I still cycle that in from time to time as well. It's always important to grow and challenge yourself with new ideas and meet new speakers and influencers, authors, etc. Those types of people I like to bring on the show as well. And I just like to hit on something that I learned years ago, and then I coined a phrase. I now call it the freedom trifecta, right? So having that time freedom, the location freedom, and the financial freedom. I think those three key things are essentially aligned with the podcast theme of we fuel your health, business, and lifestyle. If I have time freedom to grow a new business, or time freedom to go on vacation, or the time freedom necessary to balance my life more with monthly massage therapy, chiropractic care, etc. That's how I look at stuff like that. But back to the freedom trifecta, right? Time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. The master plan is also location freedom. Being able to do stuff like this from anywhere, work remotely from anywhere, have the financial freedom, the third part, to do anything I want from anywhere, whether it be, mixing business and pleasure and working from another country. We did that years ago. My wife and I went to South Africa because she needed continuing education credits, and she's like, hey, why don't we start turning some of her vacation business trips into vacations kind of. So like, hey, she's a large animal vet, she's a horse doctor. So she found a clinic, not a clinic, but kind of like a destination style vacation thing where we got to go on safari. So she's like in class, during the day, but then we go on a sunrise safari and then a sunset safari before and after her classes. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty badass. But I handle her sales and marketing and her social media, and I'm kind of like her, I'm the techie geek from behind the scenes in case there's a problem with her laptop or whatever. That's me being a good husband, but technically we have a business-to-business relationship now too. So, hey, why not video a bunch of content down there and generate new things to put out on their marketing feeds, their email list, and stuff like that. So it became a business trip for both of us, but obviously with a lot of fun and a lot of adventure mixed in. So nowadays she tries to find, she's also a doctor of chiropractic besides her regular medical degree for veterinary. So now she likes to find, chiropractic conferences to go to. This year I skipped it because I was really focused on the home front, and I travel a lot already with what I do. So I say, hey, why don't you just go catch up with your fellow doctor friends? I'm out. But we did it a couple years ago, but she found a great conference that goes on in Tahoe, in Tahoe, Nevada, during the ski season, and we're big skiers. So normally I would like to attend something like that. I was like, hey, I had some big expenses planned for the home front, my man zone barn project, the future office expansion there, heating system for the barn, all these things. I'm like, you know what, I don't need to go. I like to balance the books, So it's like, hey, you can write that off as a business trip. I don't want to justify this one. I'll stay at home, save us on the doggy daycare type of, because if we were both going, we got to put the dog with something. So let me enjoy the home time. And it was great. Riva got to ride with me for once. Normally Riva rides with my wife every single day when she goes out to the horse farms. So it was just a fun experience to stay home for once. And it was refreshing. All that money I could have spent along with her on that type of, quote, business ski trip, I channeled it into other areas. So, the big picture, I don't share stuff like that often, but the master plan this year is to have everything paid off, so I'm just hammering the house. I've become an obsessive fan of Dave Ramsey. Figured I'd throw that into this episode because, not everybody agrees with him. He is obviously they have a very religious theme to their content, but they've been around for decades. They've helped thousands of people live with no debt and become financially free. And that's part of that financial freedom, right? That component of trifecta. But also part of my lifestyle goals, right? The podcast, right? Fuel your health, business, and lifestyle freedom, financial freedom. I'm like, boom, like light bulbs going off. I'm obsessed with it. So I still had a little bit of school debt left because I went back as an adult student and didn't bother with it. I was focused on other things. And my wife is amazing. She paid off, $250,000 to $300,000 in education, having to go to Cornell for undergrad, and then UPenn in Philadelphia for her doctorate besides Cairo. So I was like, yo, she's 5 years younger, and wiped it all out. I owe it to her and to myself to wipe that out. So that'll be cleared out this year. I pretty much, I own my business card, bought that, I paid that off. So like, I'm excited because by the end of this year, the only thing we're going to be hammering is the house. And once that's paid off, like I set this crazy, I forget the guy who quoted it, but BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. Set these in your life, ladies and gentlemen, please do. But one of my BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goal was, what if we got so intense that we paid the house off by term 50? That'd be sick. Now, granted, we've had some big repairs and updates and stuff over the past couple of years, so that may or may not happen. But when I have a big goal like that, you're talking about paying off hundreds of thousands of dollars in a short period of time. We just moved into this house in 2021, so we've got some big goals. And she's cool if we don't do it by the time I turn 50, but I'm 48 now, and I'll be 49 later this year in 2026. So we've got until next year to see how freaking close we get. And it just pumps me up. So if any of you listening to this right now have been there, I hope you get there if you're not there, because it is exciting. Because think about this. If you have no bills, you owe no one anything. So if you're away on a business trip like I am very often, like this one, there's no care in the world per se, right? Or you're on a vacation, you want to splurge a little bit more, right? I truly believe nowadays, I was afraid of budgets, but like everybody should always have a budget, even if you don't have quote unquote, big bills. Once everything is paid off, the house is paid off, you're still gonna have bills. You have your day-to-day life stuff, right? The insurances and all the things, but those are normal. Those are easy things. I'm going to be setting aside tens of thousands of dollars to never worry about cars and stuff ever again. There's a lot of cool, exciting things that the way I grew up, that was never taught to me. That was never an option. I know my parents did the best that they could with what they knew and what they did, what they carried forward, but we weren't guided financially. And I made a lot of mistakes. I burned a lot of cash over the years, and I will not do that ever again. We don't have children, but I want to make sure my wife and we set aside like a great chapter for our nieces and our nephews, when it's time for us to move on in the world. This is how my brain works, ladies and gents. Like sometimes I'm thinking 20 years out versus just 5 years out. So everybody talks about the 5-year plan and the 10-year plan. Sometimes I got a 20-year plan and a 30-year plan. I think it's important to think like that from time to time and understand all these things need to connect and pass through, and it's okay to stay liquid and stay fluid because things may change, your goals may change, ideas may change. So, but it's just nice to be able to strategize and think at those levels. Maybe that's because I'm older now, but I think that way. So, but those are just some fun things I wanted to hit on the show today. I didn't want to drag it on for an hour plus. I prefer to go long format when I'm having a guest co-host and we're just riffing and really connecting. I got some exciting health influencers I'm going to be bringing on soon, some new people to geek out with, and I'm loving it. So I'll close out the show though on being a podcast geek and an audiobook geek because I travel so much. I call it Windshield University. Even if you only have a 20-minute commute to your jobby job, that's still 20 minutes out of your life that instead of just listening to music, you could be learning something new. And that's the fun part of digital content is that if you're a commuter, you have no excuse not to capitalize on that Windshield University time. And I've lost track of how many thousands of hours of content that I've absorbed. And that's something my wife and I have in common. But I will tell you, I hate politics. I can't stand religion as far as like the people who get obsessed about the stuff and they're so polarized they can't get along with other people. But I will say, I know if I say these names, people don't like them sometimes, or some people do. But I will say, Sean Ryan, interesting dude. Been geeking out on his show lately. Obviously, the Dave Ramsey Show for all the financial wisdom that they share, and there are different personalities that they host episodes on. But I do go back from time and listen to my own show just to improve my own abilities. But then like Mike Rowe, hilarious guy, right? The Dirty Jobs guy who created that whole TV series. And I think he brings on some very interesting people. I was just listening to a great episode on the way back to my hotel here today. So, shows like that. Again, I'm sure there's tens of thousands of shows out there now. My whole point there is you don't have to listen to what I'm listening to, but get out there and find people that create positivity in your life, not like a drama fest. That's something else that I've been doing for the past month or two, is even though the reason why I didn't air a couple of shows is I was literally trying to experience more unplugged time, reducing social media whenever possible, because it is addicting, right? And again, a lot of time on the home front, running chainsaws. It's springtime, baby. Yeah, you know I'm going to run some chainsaws. I got a ton of firewood to split. I just did a big session last weekend. It's fun being a homeowner because for me, it motivates me to do things. And in order to do those things, I need to unplug from time to time. So the cool thing is when I unplug, I get more done. And that's just one of my hacks. So learn when to unplug from the laptop, unplug from the computer. And I'm guilty of being a high-tech dude, guys. I have, got three monitors in my home studio. I upgraded to one of those Mac Mini supercomputers last year. I'm still using a Windows machine for my laptop, so I'm teaching myself the Mac world plus the Windows world. I've always been a Windows guy. Here's a fun thing to throw in at the end of the show. Geeking out, right? My wife thinks I get a little crazy from time to time, but I've always been a high-tech guy. I like to just learn and teach myself new things. So especially on the home front, I'm always teaching myself new things unless I need a professional. Back to my point earlier in the show. HVAC, work with your professional contractors. They're licensed and educated and insured. Please don't try and DIY stuff at that level, especially advanced plumbing. It's just not worth your risks later on. Having electrical problems, electrical fires, flooding from pop pipes, whatever it may be. But back to the techie geek. For anybody who's ever heard of Ubiquiti, Ubiquiti, that's the manufacturer that created the Unify platform, UNIFI. Well, that's the tech that I've been geeking out on for about a year now in our own home. So I've had so many mental health experts and neurosurgeons on over the years too that I know the risks of Wi-Fi and cellular signals. Like that, I made sure when we bought this house, we were nowhere near a cell tower. The unfortunate side effect of that is that we only have like 1 bar of cell coverage at our house. So we kind of depend on Wi-Fi calling. Problem with Wi-Fi calling is now you got that Wi-Fi in the house. So long story short, I am using that tech in the home. I'm using their repeaters to help me get internet into the barn because I eventually want to put a second studio or office out there. That's what I'm working on now as well. But now they have their own security cameras. So now I'm like, whole new chapter. Past couple months, I've been crawling into the attic and dragging Cat6 wire, Ethernet wire all over the place so I can hardwire the house because their security cameras are what's called PoE, Power over Ethernet. There you go, people. I'm geeking out. I'm like, their hardware that I bought from them sends just enough low voltage power through the Ethernet wire that the security cameras can power themselves off of it. So all I got to do is get a wire to wherever I want to stick that camera, whether it be in the attic, in the basement, whatever, and boom, I've got my own security system. So up until this point, I was just using Ring cameras from Amazon, So I can't wait to sell all those and get rid of them all because when I'm all said and done later this year, I'll have my own private security network. I have high-speed internet hardware for the home studio for podcasting and all the video work and the sales and marketing work that I do and the webinars I run and training events that I host and all the things. But that's just another little taste of something new and exciting this year that just fell in my brain and now I became obsessed with it. I'm studying about redundant power and I'll be posting more about it. It's a black hole or that you fall down, or what's the Alice in Wonderland, falling down the rabbit hole, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's something new and exciting to stimulate my brain, and teach myself new things. I love teaching myself new things, whether it be books, whether it be podcasts, or whether it be that hands-on activity, right? Running chainsaws, felling trees, all stuff that I learned from the Wildland Firefighting days. But now I'm adding in new technology and studying how to do it all myself. It's fun. So that's how I'll close the show out. I hope that for those of you who've all listened to this episode, you've taken maybe a small piece of my weirdo crazy motivation and inspiration to bring new things into your own life or your family's life, to keep yourself driven, motivated, and or just busy, all right? The more things you do with these your two hands and using your brain and your eyes and your ears, and I'm talking about not plugged into social media and the drama fest of the negative news networks. Unplug, because you get so much more done and so much more achieved in your life. And especially over the past year or two, it's been crazy. So I am constantly finding ways to push that negative content out of my life. I always have. It's not worth it. And then allow in that incoming bandwidth, to speak in internet terms, right? That incoming bandwidth of positive content. And if that means you have to generate it, meaning getting outside, playing with your dog, spending time with your wife, becoming a geek about barn remodeling and home internet security infrastructure, whatever's going to motivate you, whatever's going to get you to the next level of success in life, the only way to get there is to unplug from the distractions and plug yourself into the things that are going to get you there. And then along that path, add in random things that some people would consider a distraction. But for me, it's stimulating my brain, right? It's stimulating new synaptic pathways, new learning patterns, new things that create conversation that might pop up, which literally today, because I'm learning about all that security system stuff from Ubiquiti for Unified platform, I ended up geeking out one of the executives from this distribution company that was having issues because they use it in their businesses and their branch locations. So never expected that connection to happen. But because I chose to try and learn something new, all of a sudden I know enough that I can actually hold a conversation, and who knows where that could go. So that's what I'll leave you guys with. As a reminder, the show's not going away. I've promised to break 500 episodes for the past probably year and a half. I know the last couple episodes I hinted about finally recording my book that I put out, So You Want to Be a Hotshot. As a reminder, all proceeds from that on Amazon go to the charity as well, besides my income. So you can find that on Amazon. You can also see you can link there from Fuel Foundations. When you look at the Hotshot book, it goes there. Hotshotbook.com, that URL will take you directly to the Amazon listing. But I need to finally get the audiobook done, so that's where the podcast comes in. I'm going to record each chapter and release them as digital content in the podcast world separately, because I need to sit down and record them anyway. So why not do that as extra motivation for new content in the podcast? Because there are some of you out there that might not sit back and listen to an audiobook or sit down and read the book. But it is a story about the transformation from me serving as a hotshot wildland firefighter, the lessons learned from that, and now fast forward all these years later, why I really still care about it and want to give back, with my foundation and buying boots for wildland firefighters, etc. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, you too can live the fuel. We'll talk to you guys again soon. That's a wrap.